The lives of so many of the people gathered at Redland in Bristol have been touched by the tragedy of drugs. Some have lost children, husbands, wives, brothers or sisters. Any single loss of life is devastating. But Rose Humphreys lost 2 sons to drugs.
I joined Anyone's Child because I want to try to make a difference. I lost 2 of my sons because of heroin, and I think it was more because of the drugs laws surrounding heroin than the actual heroin itself. And I don't want to see other parents ending up grieving for their children like we've had to grieve for 2 of ours.
Rose is just one of the voices calling for a serious rethink of our drugs laws. It's perhaps surprising that people who've lost loved ones to the likes of heroin should call for it to be made legal. But Amy Garidis, whose husband died from a lethal cocktail of drugs, says it's the only way for society to take control.
We were together 11 years up until his death. We had a wonderful life. He was a professional man. He worked as a product manager for a national newspaper in London. We had a daughter who's now 3, and generally life was fantastic. But unfortunately, Chris had this Valium addiction, which was an underlying problem. He went to Barcelona for a business trip and took a mixture of heroin and Valium and died in his hotel room. And I'm angry that the lack of support that he received. He definitely was not a criminal. He was a good man. He was a good family man who worked hard, and he should have been given support for his problem.
Government figures say there are more than 300,000 problem drug users in England, and their habit costs us around £15 billion a year, much of it dealing with drugs-related crime. Campaigners say legal regulation of drugs through prescriptions will save lives and protect health, reduce crime and violence, protect children, and save money for society. That is, it would channel funds into health programmes rather than pursuing drugs criminals.
When I was a police officer, I had a great deal to do with the investigation of drug deaths, because I was that's the world I came from, the type of investigation I came from. And I can say with absolute certainty that all of the drug deaths that I had anything to do with the investigation of, each one of those could have been prevented with a regulated system.
She didn't survive.
Anne-Marie Coburn faced having to arrange the funeral of her 15-year-old daughter, Martha, who died from an ecstasy overdose.
She left my house on a Saturday morning, went out with friends, swallowed half a gram of white powder that turned out to be ecstasy that was 91% pure, collapsed and died within 3 hours. Nothing's changed since Martha died, I know that, and that's what motivates me every day to keep this going, because until something changes, the dangers are there. 50 people every week in the UK die from a drug-related death, and that's 50 more people become me. And I can't allow that to be the norm. So, although it's painful to tell my story, I have to until things change, you know.
The families here ask how many more young people like Martha will die before society finally tackles the drugs issue head-on by changing attitudes and rewriting what they say are out-of-date laws unfit for tackling the scale of the drugs problem of 2015 and beyond. Wesley Smith, ITV News.